I like to see what things look like on all the platforms.
Nice. Awesome. Well, welcome, Thor Johnson. It's really great to see you, and welcome anyone who's
Hi,
watching. And
Suzanne. Nice to
and
see everybody out there.
I know, yeah, out on the Facebook interwebs. So Thor, it's really great to connect with you again. The Globetrotting CEO has ton of experience and background in B2B marketing and marketing, amongst other things. And I'm just so excited that you're willing to share your insights on marketing yourself and how to get hired, because I think the perception is that COVID has made it extremely challenging. But we were just saying that it's not like, don't be overly daunted or discouraged, because people are still hiring.
I think it's true. It turns out I myself am looking for work right now, but I'm not even slightly worried because there's so much going on. I find the world's working right now, and it certainly is not evenly spread. But if you're in the e-commerce world, if you're in a lot of the tech sectors, if you're in the medical world right now, things are exploding. And if you are interested in some of the sectors that are exploding, there's plenty of work. I'm here in New England in Little Rhodey, so I see kind of the Washington, D.C., New York, Boston axis, and and there's plenty of opportunity right now. But the point of this discussion is how do you make it work for you? And the first thing you got to do if you're looking for a job is figure out, why would someone hire you? Why should I hire you? And you, as somebody who's trying to figure out what you're going to do next, first question you have to ask is, why would anybody hire me? And that's the question I ask you. It's, hey, it's all about me. I'm the hiring manager. It's all about me. I'm going to hire you if you're going to make me look good.
Right.
And now, making me look good, that's a couple of things. One is, can you come right in and do a bunch of things that make me look good? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can come in and be somebody that helps me over my time, that's really good. Some of the people I've worked with have run their own companies, taken them public, become CMOs, become CEOs. That makes me look good. That's one of the things that I'm looking for when I'm hiring somebody is, are you going to be a success? Are you going to be fun? And are you going to just create a lot of work for me? If you're going to create a lot of work for me, I'm less interested. Yes, but I am definitely interested in investing in you if I think you're going to make me look good sooner or later. So when you walk into any kind of a job discussion, remember, it's all about the hiring manager. It's all about me. It's also all about you. And you have to convince me, particularly if you're not, many years of experience, that you're going to work hard and that you're going to be a pleasure to work with. I'm assuming if I'm hiring somebody right out of college, you've got a good education. If you've been listening to Suzanne, you've got a great education. But that I'm still going to have to teach you the job. I'm willing to do that, but it's got to be worth it. It's got to be fun to have you around. You've got to add to the culture, whether it's a Zoom culture or an in the office culture, I don't care. It's just got to be fun, because work is a lot of work, and I'd rather work with people I enjoy working with. And I want to believe that you're going to develop and you're going to learn, you're going to figure stuff out. You're going to show me things I don't know, back to the first point, so that eventually you can make me look good and take some of the workload off of my shoulders. So walk into any kind of job discussion that way. Here's my short story. I've known Suzanne for years and have worked with her on a couple of projects. But I'm a geek. Started out as a software engineer, became a marketer of technology products, and I did that overseas. Since then, I've had a couple of leadership positions, and I've been the CEO now in 3 separate companies. All 3 have had, to one degree or another, a good deal of success, particularly the last one, which was a Swedish company. And I went international really early. As a 25-year-old, as a software engineer, I went to Copenhagen and programmed computers for Scandinavian Airlines. And that was just a lot of fun. And it introduced me to the wider world outside of the US. And that, for me, it stuck. And my career has been international since. It's been focused on B2B marketing, largely because I'm a technology marketer, really by training and by trade is what I've learned. And I got introduced to a company called Eloqua Corporation in the early 2000s. And that Eloqua and Marketo and Pardot, all of these B2B marketing automation engines were kind of Rev 1.0 and Rev 2.0. HubSpot is Rev 3.0 of this category of technology. And so I was part of starting that back in the early to mid 2000s. And that really gave me the career that I've got right now. I've been in Sweden for the last 2 years, just came back to the US in March, right in time for an election and for COVID. So it was a hell of a reintroduction to America. So that's a bit about me, and I'm happy to talk about how do you market yourself? How do you create enough of a pattern for yourself so that people will pay attention to you? Do your do the work. I mean, you're going to keep seeing that phrase. Get your LinkedIn right. Get your resume right. Make sure your LinkedIn matches your resume. You're going to go through a bunch of discussions where someone's going to ask you, walk me through your resume. And I find while I'm doing that, it's handy to have my LinkedIn up on the other screen. So I can just kind of paste through the LinkedIn rather than looking down when I should be talking to you at this piece of paper resume.
Oh, right. Yeah. This is brilliant for being
put
on
it
Zoom
on the screen
because you're on
in
a
front
call.
of you. So, my LinkedIn's right over here and I'm a little off camera, but I want to be able to look at you while I'm talking to you on camera and make sure that the two of them match. Clean it up. Focus on your interests. Get crap out of there. Get people to look at it for you. And develop your network. There's a barrier at 500. And if you break through 500 connections, that puts you in a category that pre-500 doesn't. But my counsel to you is don't just accept these invitations. Make sure you actually know these people, because what will happen is folks will say, will you connect me with Suzanne? Oh, I don't know. Actually, I don't know her. I connected with her 5 years ago and I've never dealt with her. You sound like a dope, and then you are useless to that person who has asked you for a favor. It's nice that I know Suzanne and someone asked me to introduce, then I can say, okay, do I want to make that connection or not? Because I know Suzanne and I know you. Is there a fit there? The big core, which is what I'm doing right now, is to run your own marketing campaign for yourself. And that's do the work. Go out, find companies that you think you would like to work for or with, or you just think are interesting. Because you're not really looking for a job right now. You're looking to build a network that's going to show you a job that's going to work for you. Call everyone you know. Get into a discipline. Make 5 phone calls a day. Make 8 phone calls a day. Make 3 phone calls a day, but make sure that you are making those phone calls every day and get your emails flowing. Have yourself a nice introductory email. Hi, I'm Thor. I would love to talk with you about the problems that I see in, the challenges that I see in your industry, because I'm actually pretty well studied on that industry. Or I'd like to seek your advice on my career. I'll talk about this in a little bit later, but you're not really asking for a job. Certainly with an intro letter, you're asking for people to give you advice. And I've got time for advice, but I don't have a job for you right now. But talking with me might give you a lead or an idea to a job that you can take on. And advice is easy. Having a job, that's hard. Put yourself into a program where you are doing outbound, making calls, sending out emails, and you've got a well-defined target list of 20, 10's fine, 30's fine, but more than 2 or 3 where you've got an audience out there and you're just going to prospect and see if you can get someone to talk to you and give you advice about your career. And if you like to write and you are a publisher, publish. I personally like LinkedIn. I like it better than Facebook for the kind of work that I do. But go to where you see the people who are publishing, publish. If they're publishing on Facebook, that's a great place to publish. If they're publishing on LinkedIn, that's a great place to publish. And then, learn, publish, but add value when you publish. When I see retweets without value added, I'm not impressed. When I see someone say, here's something I just saw, and here's a quickie analysis or a pointer to something else that makes this more interesting, Then I go, okay, fine. They added value. They thought about it before they retweeted either on LinkedIn or Twitter or anyplace else. And mainly just network your brains out. Call anybody, call everybody. I called Suzanne a while ago when I returned to the States. How are you doing? Haven't talked to you in a year. And that's why I'm here today. And it's an opportunity for me to meet you, to meet everybody on the phone right now. This is great.
Yeah.
And to just kind of get my wings back, coming back in the States. So it's seeking advice. Who do you know? What do you know? What do you think would be good for me? But have a smart discussion with people. Don't ask me for a job, though. I don't have one. Even if I did have one, I'm not going to give it to you on the first phone call. Ask me for advice. People will give you advice, and do your research. If you show up on a phone call with me, it means I've booked 30 minutes or an hour for you. I'm busy right now. I got 4 or 5 projects going. And if I'm going to book an hour for you, I expect it to be fun. And so be fun on the phone and make sure you know what you're talking about. If you're going to talk to me, look me up. Understand where I've been, where I'm going, what my company does, what the company's looking for. Every company's website has their PR releases on it. Most companies have a blog. Most companies are posting stuff on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Spend 10 minutes, figure out what's this company do, what are they looking for, what are their challenges, and who am I talking to, and where has he or she been? So that you don't have to blast it in people's faces, but you have that in your head when you're talking to somebody. Because everyone's got a background and everyone's proud of their own history and feels they have something to offer. So don't ignore that. And when you come with something to offer, know what you're good at. Are you a good writer? That's a great skill to have.
Sure.
And I like marketers, but I like journalists. Journalists know how to write. They know how to write to an audience, and they know how to get things done on time. And that's really valuable to marketers. Social media skills. A lot of people my age do not have the social media skills that you have. But remember that it's just one channel. It's not all of marketing. It's just one channel, but that's a skill set you may have. If you've ever sold, even if you've worked in a camera store or something, and you've got selling skills, bring them up, or know that you have them on the call so that you can weave them into a story. And if you like to present, set yourself up so that you can give a little presentation about yourself if someone asks for it. But don't ever shove yourself in somebody's face on a call like this, because you're actually asking them for a favor to spend time with you and give you advice. And for every 10 of those calls, you'll get 2 or 3 great calls that'll point you somewhere you hadn't thought about before, or introduce you to somebody who might be a little closer to that job you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, there's some statistic that talks about like posted jobs versus unposted jobs, and how most jobs that are posted, they already have somebody in mind, but they're just required to post them. So you have to get ahead of that. If you're actually applying for a job that's posted, chances are it's already gone. So you got to get ahead of it.
I think that's true. And this is the networking. The next job you have hasn't been posted. The next job that you have, you got through your own connections. And it might have been through a headhunter, but most likely, if you're still new at marketing, it's going to be because you went and talked to 100 people, 10, 12, 15 of them whom were really helpful, 2 or 3 gave you leads, and then you had a choice on which way you wanted to go. But if you think you can get yourself an interesting job without talking to 100 people, I think that's hard. I think that's very challenging. So see what you can do about doing the work.
Great
It's
advice.
a recurring theme in marketer. A lot of marketers think if this is easy, I just got to show up and be creative. No, it's a lot of work. And if you do the work for yourself, it'll pay off.
Right.
Topics to think about when you're talking to somebody who's in a company. What's the company like? What's the culture like? Go to the company's website. Go to the various review sites on what's it like to work for a company. Look at their products and services. See if they have reviews online for their products and services. Have a clue on what the market is that this company sells into. Is it big? Is it little? Is it large companies or small companies? Is it something that's growing or not growing? Is it a market that you know about because of your own background or not? And then think about stuff that you may be able to dig up. Channels, who do they sell through? Partnerships, do they coast their people? If you buy, you always have to buy another. How does this company serve its market? And are there influencers? Are there consultants? Gartners and Forresters are the known ones in technology, but all industries have a bunch of analysts who will tell you who's on first, who's on second, who's strong, who's growing, who's not. And if at least you can know who they are, that helps you walk into any conversation with an industry specialist who might have a job for you or who might have a lead to a job for you.
Yeah, those analysts, I imagine, would be a great resource for like who's growing, who's going to be hiring.
Yeah,
And again,
who's
getting ahead of it.
interesting? Many times I have hired people out of cycle because I ran into somebody interesting, either because somebody introduced me to that person, said, hey, look, here's Cheryl. She is awesome. I know you're not hiring right now, but I said, hey, I will always take time to talk to an interesting person. And we talked to Cheryl. We find out Cheryl's actually really cool. We can't afford her right now. So what can we do? Well, we'll figure out how to afford Cheryl right now. Or we'll bring her on as a consultant until we can hire her. There's a million ways to skin the cat. And the real issue is to make friends with these people on the phone so that they'll figure out a way to help you. And whether that help you means hiring you, or that help you means introducing you to two other people they know who might be able to help you, that's how you really develop this network, which is going to get you another job and help you build your network and help you build your LinkedIn profile.
What's your take on potentially doing free work?
I do a little free work for people. I'm in a different situation from you, and then I'm a senior marketer CEO. But if what I tell people, and it is true, I'm not being disingenuous, is sure, I'll spend an hour with you. I'll spend a couple hours with you. And if that's interesting to both of us, let's talk about doing something else. But I get a kick out of having business discussions. Earlier today, this is December 2020 right now, early today, I had a discussion with the CEO of a company. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. It went an hour and a half. It was really interesting to me. I have no idea if I'm ever going to work with or for this guy, but now I know something that I didn't know before. We had a great discussion. I'm a little richer for it. Hopefully he is too. May lead to a job. You never know. So, back to it, make friends.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great advice. Some of the advice that we've had on the podcast is to go ahead and do some social media work, write a blog. If you're just starting out and you're looking for portfolio pieces, and this is one of the things that we really focus on with ROIinU, is you're actually doing real work that benefits a nonprofit or a startup, and where you're working on real projects, so you have portfolio pieces out of it. So if you don't have really a strong portfolio piece for a real company that exists or a real organization that exists, would you say, okay, go ahead and volunteer for, write some content, or what are some good volunteer opportunities for somebody who's maybe just graduated or trying a career transition?
Yeah, and I would pop it up a level and just say, do you like to write? If you like to write, that helps you become a marketer. If you don't like to write, you've got to figure out another skill that's going to get you to shine. The question from Suzanne is, if you like to write, what are you going to do? First thing, I would get in the practice of writing. Everyone knows Stephen King, sit down for an hour a day and write. If you don't write, it won't get written. And I would start writing about things that you see or comment on. I would keep it to business. I would try to separate my personal view of the world from my business view of the world in anything I publish, and start developing some expertise, but start developing a habit of writing. And publish it on your LinkedIn, publish it on your personal website, publish it on Facebook, so that when you're talking to some guy like me who says, well, can you show me where you're writing in, is you don't go, you can just say, yeah, here's 3 links to places where I have written and I have published. to the free stuff, if you want to go and help somebody, says, yeah, I'll write something up for you. You got to bound yourself so that people don't get used to getting you for free. But doing one piece or spending an hour or doing an afternoon workshop, I do that all of the time. And I learn things, I meet interesting people, and I sometimes will get a product out of it. For example, this piece right here, when Suzanne asked me to do it, now I've got this little 8-point, 9-point PowerPoint, which I'm gonna use again somehow, somewhere. So this is work product that helps me build my skills. This is work product that helps me demonstrate to others that I've got skills that might be valuable for them. So yeah, right, do limited stuff for free. Make sure that you have ownership to it so that you can keep it and show it to somebody else. You hate to write something for somebody and have it disappear. But again, what you're really trying to do is build your network right now, and the jobs will come. And if you have to do, write a piece over an evening or an afternoon or a weekend, or if you have to do some work for somebody to build that relationship, do it. Do it. You'll learn what your value is over time, and others will too.
Yeah, I think one challenge is if you're not sure, what to be writing about, like what's going to get you noticed, to go to an organization, particularly a nonprofit, can be helpful.
Yes,
And
they need
ask
help.
them, oh, what would be helpful to you? And, in exchange for some free work, they maybe would potentially mentor you. So you have a piece that's usable for them. And then a hiring manager will look at that and say, wow, this is really interesting. And, you could say, well, I talked to them, really tried to hone in to make it very useful and helpful. And a hiring manager is going to say, oh, that's interesting. This is good work. And you ask the right questions. And
Yeah.
I think these are all skills that are not necessarily understood, if you haven't been in the workforce, that going in and asking smart questions and having some smart questions
Yep.
is really key, because nobody expects you to know everything, but they do expect you to think on your own
Yes.
and ask questions.
And I expect you to produce. And if I ask you, if you tell me that you're a good writer and I say, can you show me your writing? And you've got 20 pieces that I can look at. One, I'm immediately impressed. You're organized. Two, I'm immediately impressed you actually are a writer if you've got 20 pieces. Three, if I'm even half thinking about hiring you, I'm going to go and read at least half of those things and see where your brain is. And that's a great way for you to build a portfolio before you've got 5, 10, 15 years of marketing experience behind you.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're saying do the work. I was just being interviewed by my college newspaper, which I was editor
Mhm.
in chief when I was in college, and that was one of the things that I hit on was what's great, and it was Framingham State, right? It's not a big name journalism school. I had to make my own major so I could major in journalism, but I got so much experience and didn't have to compete or wait. I initially started out at Marquette University, and you couldn't get on the staff of the student newspaper until you were a junior or senior. Well, at Framingham, I was a second semester freshman and I was working my butt off. So then I was able to get an internship by the time I was a sophomore. I interned the same place all the way through grad school. So when I went out to get a job, the editor said, "How do I know the copy desk didn't just clean up these clips?" And I
Ah,
said, "That's no problem. I can bring you more clips." And I had a stack like this. And I said, "I'm sure if you look through here, you'll be able to see where the copy desk maybe missed something or get a sense of what I am." I think he was totally blown away because it was kind of a best of, but I had such a volume of work over 4 years, to the extent where the summer after my first internship, my boss said to me, "Hey, I have a job for you. I need you to train your replacement." So, I had created enough work or found enough work to do that he said, "Oh, we really need to add a new staff member."
there you go.
And so that do the work piece is so important. It's just, it gives you lots to talk about. It builds your credibility. It's so key, I think.
And it feels good to build a portfolio.
Yeah. The portfolio is key.
You did ask me where I go, what books do I read? I actually am not I have not seen super value, long-standing marketing books. that I gravitate to or that I go to over time. I think where I get my information is talking to people and newsletters and other groups. I'm on a couple of pretty interesting email chains that just introduce me to topics and experts and expertise that I wouldn't ordinarily have. There's some commercial ones out here that I've listed. I'm a B2B marketer by upbringing, I'll say, and I'm a CEO of B2B companies. And so here's a couple of resources. Shelley Palmer is good to read because a lot of people read him and he's smart. OpenView in Boston is a venture company that publishes, and just knowing what they're talking about helps you if you're even thinking about technology. The first two are B2B, and there's a whole privacy issue all over tech right now. And if that turns you on, there's an IAPP, International Association of Privacy Professionals. You don't even have to join, just get their newsletters. And there's a million of these things. LinkedIn groups, there's a million LinkedIn groups. I've listed some of the ones that I know of, but particularly for your area of interest, find one or two or three, read what they have to say, find out if it's interesting. If it's not, get rid of it, take it off your desk and get another one. And find your tribe on LinkedIn. Find your tribe in newsletters. Don't inundate yourself with email and with interrupts. And then in your networking, make sure you're learning. Particularly in marketing, you've got to be a learning machine, because what the job is of the marketer is to represent the company inside, and represent the customer inside your company. And if you really understand the customer and understand the customer so well that you know how to communicate with the customer even before they become a customer of your company, then you become a good marketer. And that's a learning job. You have to understand what's the market. The markets are always changing. The competitors are always changing. The customers and the customers' needs are going to change. They're going to change as soon as they buy your product. Their needs are going to change. And if you're a learner, you will learn that. And getting into that habit now is great. Going to a good school like you're doing now is great. But make sure that you're learning on these while you're networking and while you're running around. Because finding a job is a full-time job by itself. I'll give you my favorite things. I've said this for years as a marketer. If, this is negative, but if you cannot credibly and confidently represent your company's customer, you are completely useless as a marketer. And I have seen marketing teams that don't go on sales calls. I've seen marketing teams that don't have lunches, dinners, or breakfasts, or phone calls, or Zooms with their customers. They don't know anything. You know, you don't have to worry about Zoom. I find people are hiring. You don't have to worry about Zoom right now. The only thing that's not on the table these days are these big group sessions and trade shows. And I've never found them particularly useful for finding jobs. They are good for networking, and that is an opportunity lost. But there is so much going on right now, and everybody's on Zoom or your favorite networking video platform. You can find anybody right now. And I find by and large, people have more time to talk to people and to learn now than they did maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I know for me, I can get a hold of people now that might have been harder to get a hold of. And I think that's true for you too. And you don't have the cost of getting in a car. You don't have the cost of getting on an airplane. And you can do things conveniently. You can talk to one person in Boston at noon and then somebody else in Washington, D.C. at 1:30, and no one's got to get on a plane. So I think this is actually a better time for finding a job than any time that I've seen, just because my reach is so much better. No one expects you to meet them in face-to-face right now. So don't. Do it over Zoom. COVID has not been an impediment to activity. Companies are hiring. If you become a marketer in a company, make friends with your sales guys. They know a whole bunch about the customer. Your job is to know more, but you have to know everything the sales guys know, or they'll think you're a waste of time. Back to do the work.
They're such a great resource.
Yeah. Sales, if the sales guys trust you, they will do anything for you because you help them succeed. If they don't trust you, you're a waste of time to them and you shouldn't be in the job. You should be doing something else somewhere else. And some audiences, some companies are very hostile to marketing. Some companies are very welcoming to marketing, but it's really up to you. Make friends with the sales team. Make friends with the customers. If the salespeople see that you know as much or more about the customers as they know, they will do anything you want. Back to do the work.
Yeah.
And listen to Suzanne. She knows her stuff. So thanks for this opportunity. It's been great seeing all of you on the webinar. And feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Thor. This is fantastic. So, you know, I just getting back to your point about newsletters and things to follow. In my experience, a lot of marketing books really are just blog posts with a lot of examples.
Probably true.
Like, just make your point, and I don't need, or like a TED Talk. That seems to be a popular formula.
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna do this TED Talk, and then I'm gonna turn it into a 200-page book. And it's like, what? Just watch the TED Talk. And there are some really good marketing TED Talks out there. But I think, you know, getting back to this concept of what to post about and what to write about.
Yes.
And I like the idea of finding a few good. Do you mind just popping back up to that slide that you have? And these slides are available on the ROIinU website. If you go to roinu.com/insights, we'll be posting these up. But yeah, so let's say I'm looking at the American Marketing Association at what they're putting out in their newsletter. And let's say there's something confusing. Would you think this is a good practice, is to take that link, post it to LinkedIn, and ask a question about it? Like, oh, you know, I'm kind of new to this and I'm just not sure. What do you think about this topic or concept? You know, because I remember when I left journalism, when I left the Boston Globe and went into content marketing and really was digging into SEO and search engine optimization, I didn't know anything, like less than nothing. I had no idea. And so I would go to conferences and trade shows, and I would get a blogger pass, and I would live tweet and I would blog. And from the perspective of, I had covered lots of things as a reporter that I had no idea what it was about. So I was like, oh, I could do this. But at that time, it really seemed like the industry was dead set on, you know, keeping the black box intact. And it took a lot more work to open that up at that time. Now it seems like things have gotten a little easier, and the industry a lot more transparent in the past, you know, like 13 years or so. But that was a good way. I mean, I found that, you know, I would tweet like, what is this? What is this term? What is that? And people would respond to me, you know, and then they follow me on Twitter. And then there was an opportunity then to, you know, meet them at the cocktail hour afterward. Like, oh, thank you so much for answering that question. Or, you know, you can still replicate these practices.
And know your audience too. If you go onto a blog, you can tell if you go onto a group where there's a lot of interaction in that group, you can tell in 2 days what the mood of that group is.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is a welcoming group, then that might very well be a good group for you. And they're clearly going to be open to you saying, hey, which way is up?
Yeah.
Someone will grab you by the hand and help you out, or not. I mean, if you keep, you know, you got to, again, know your audience and try not to irritate people in these groups. But by and large, marketers are people, and by and large, people will help bring you into their area of expertise, particularly if you ask them for advice and not for a job.
Yes.
So if you start there and you are polite and you are interested and you are prepared, I will make time for you. And if you're a pest on a chat group, I will not make time for you.
Right.
So it's back to do the work, back to having your own campaign, back to having a point of view, back to having your own portfolio, so that you are engineering a marketing campaign for yourself. A big component of which is good old-fashioned networking. You cannot get around it, particularly if you want to be a marketer for a living.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and also that you're bringing in a whole set of tools and your network. I would think, do you look at people's LinkedIn profiles besides just their actual profile, so sort of the resume version, but are you looking at their network?
Before I talk to anybody on the phone, and it's particularly true now because I can prepare, because I know who I'm going to talk to, because I'm not running into them on a trade show floor.
Right.
I'm scheduling every discussion I have. I have looked you up on LinkedIn. I've looked who we know in common. I've looked up your company. I've gone to your website. I've gone to Glassdoor. I've gone to Crunchbase, so that by the time I get you on the phone, I've got a pretty good idea of who you are. If I care about your company, I've looked at your PR stream. What is this company talking about? What do they brag about? If you're public, I know whether the stock is doing well or doing poorly. I don't do a financial analysis on every phone call, but before I get on the phone with you, I would like to know as much as I can about your context. So I'm not wasting your time on the phone call. People know that, if I'm talking to somebody in medical instrumentation, they know I am not a medical instrumentation professional. But if I walk into that call without knowing what your products are, without knowing where your company is, without knowing what you're posting or blogging about, I'm wasting your time. And so people like the fact that I am prepared for a phone call. And it makes me have a more productive phone call and makes them more likely to talk to me again. And to the point of this discussion, more likely to help me out. And in your case, more likely to help you out, figure out what your next step will be. So, once again, we're back to do the work and walk in prepared every time you have an opportunity to walk in prepared.
Now, how much time do you usually spend?
5 to 10
I'm
minutes.
sure it's a range.
Yeah, no, I'm good at this now. But if I'm talking to somebody whom I haven't talked with, and I actually am trying to build a relationship, the night before, I'll go and look them up, and I'll look up the company, I'll sleep on it. Then that morning, I will just do research. And I could do 2 hours of research on you before I talk with you, because I am actually trying to make friends.
Right.
And, if it's just a casual call, if you're calling me, I'll just do 15, 20 minutes of research before a phone call. Maybe that shrinks down to 10. So I've got an insight into your context, so that whatever you ask me or ask me for or want to talk about doesn't come as a surprise. A good friend marketer of mine used to have a sign over his desk that said, "Surprises are for birthdays." And I think there's truth in that. Try to be prepared when you're spending other people's time, and that'll help you get where you want to go next too.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm going to adopt that. One of my favorites.
Yeah, that's my good old friend Harold Rhodes. Interesting man, great marketer.
Yeah, I was in Tortola in the Caribbean, and the ferry that goes to Jost Van Dyke has a sign over it that says, "Your lack of planning does not my emergency make."
Yes.
And I saw that.
Thank you very much.
Maybe 20 years ago. So if you think about that, right? Like, think about how, just a little bit of preparedness saves a lot of time.
Yeah, my corollary to that is the plumber's rate card. It says it's $50 an hour. It's $75 an hour if you want to watch, and it's $150 if you want to help.
Yeah.
So there's a lesson there about, how do people value their own time, and they value their own time highly. So so use it wisely, be prepared. Particularly if you're looking for a job, if you want something out of this discussion, be straightforward about it, and come ready to have something to offer. You don't know what I need. I might really value your writing skills, your social media skills, or your knowledge of Jost Van Dyke in the Caribbean, or your knowledge of the kind of car or car dealership experience that you just had. You may, if I'm talking with you, I'm picking your brain for things I'm trying to figure out as well, whether you know that or not. And the more interesting you are, the more likely we're going to have a longer discussion, and the more likely I can help you. And who knows, if you can help me, then we're buddies.
Definitely. Oh, I think this is all such great advice, and I really appreciate it, Thor.
I hope this is useful. And it's great to see everybody. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, we will log off here, and thank you.
Stay healthy. Be well.